Welcome back to this News 12 special Vote 2008. It's a special edition of Newsmakers here on News 12. I'm Janine Rose. Today we're sitting down with the candidates running for the State Assembly to get their views on all the major issues facing voters here in Westchester, the Hudson Valley, and beyond. Of course, from the tanking economy to your taxes, education, and more. We shift our focus now to the 99th Assembly District in Upper Westchester, parts of Putnam and Dutchess as well. The 99th District encompasses Yorktown, Somers, and North Salem in Westchester, and as I just mentioned, goes beyond into Putnam and Dutchess. Now, there was a contentious Republican primary in this district in September, and the general election pits the same two opponents against each other. Let me introduce those candidates to you now. First, we want to welcome incumbent Republican Greg Ball. Mr. Ball is completing his first term as an Albany Assemblyman, having won the seat 2 years ago from Willis Stevens. Challenging Greg Ball on the Democratic line is former Brewster Mayor John Degnan. Mr. Degnan and Mr. Ball went head-to-head in the Republican primary last month when Mr. Degnan was also endorsed to run for the seat on the GOP line. He lost that contest but remains on the Democratic line for November's contest. So, Mr. Degnan, Mr. Ball, I want to thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
It's good to have you back. Mr. Ball, as the incumbent, I will ask you, you're in Albany one term. When you went there, you said you were going there to fix Albany.
Right.
Has anything really changed in 2 years?
You know, the thing about Albany that people need to realize is I'm one voice out of 150, but whether it be on the budget, which I voted against, and now we're looking at an $8 billion looming debt, whether it be driver's licenses for illegal aliens that I stood up against, over 2 years ago, or whether it be the general reforming Albany issues and standing up to the three men in the room on the comptroller vote, I've been right. The people of this district have had an advocate, and we need more rank-and-file members on both sides of the aisle. Now, for the people that are watching today, they get to choose between two Republicans. I'm asking for Democrats and independents to support me because for 2 years I've given my blood, sweat, and tears to this district. And if more rank-and-file members throughout the state demand more, and in these tough economic times, the silver lining to that dark cloud is that the people really want change and they need it. So I'm looking forward to a victory in November.
One of the reasons Mr. Degnan ran against you, though, was because Senator Leibel was endorsing him in this race because Senator Leibel has felt that you've been too contentious, not working with the delegation. Sure. You extended an olive branch on primary night to Senator Leibel. Yep. Has anything come of that?
No, I've extended so many olive branches to Senator Leibel, I think I'm going to take stock in olive farms over in Italy. But the reality is that maybe that state senator doesn't like to have a state assemblyman under him going around saying that Albany is dysfunctional. But wake up, Senator. Albany is dysfunctional. I extend the olive branch to the senator once again. And when it comes to a property tax cap, when it comes to cracking down on illegal aliens, when it comes to a balanced budget, I'll extend an olive branch. But when it comes to dysfunction, I'm going to fight tooth and nail in that legislature to bring much-needed reforms like term limits and a balanced budget.
Mr. Degnan, why are you working so hard to try and defeat Mr. Ball? And what about this problem between the delegation?
Well, first off, I'd like to say that in all the elections that I've run in my 10 years of public service, I have accepted the cross-endorsement of major parties. I've done that because I think that as a leader serves, he should be campaigning. So I find myself in a situation on the Democratic line, but I'm proud to represent the people of the 99th Assembly District. I think the #1 mandate that anyone standing for elected office, whether it be at the local level, at the village, or up through the federal government, we need to cut spending. That is job one. I applaud Governor Patterson's initiatives, and I believe that Mr. Ball's lack of record, the fact that he has not passed one single bill as a prime sponsor in the Assembly, is a great indication of just how ineffective he has been in that job. So here we have an opportunity to say, we are in crisis. Historically, this country has always come together in a time of crisis and put party politics aside. Mr. Ball talks in terms of a game where we choose sides. I say we need to come together. We need to address this crisis collectively, and we need to do it with effective leadership first.
I'll let you answer, Ms. Ball, but if you do go to Albany, you'd be going as a Republican, as a Democrat, you're going as an elected Democrat, but still a Republican. Will you be able to get more done in Albany than Mr. Ball did or didn't do?
Clearly, the idea of partisan politics is past. We are in crisis. We need people who are willing to communicate, willing to find the compromise, willing to get the job done. Mr. Ball, through his contentious politics, makes a great show of things in the 99th Assembly District, but on the floor of the body that we elected him to, he's ineffectual.
Mr. Ball.
You know, we still sit here today, Janine, and this gentleman has not said whether he will sit on the Republican side of the aisle or whether he'll sit under Sheldon Silver on the Democratic side of the aisle. When you're playing sports, and I use that analogy, maybe it's because of my Air Force background and playing sports at the Air Force Academy, but you should figure out first and foremost which side of the aisle, what team you're going to play on. And when it comes to being ineffective, well, John, if I'm ineffective, you just spent $500,000, and the insider spent $500,000 in the special interest to attack me personally and to hurt me politically. You lost. I had got 75% of the vote. But if you're spending $500,000, I don't think it's because I'm ineffective. I think it's because I am. And you need more rank-and-file members on both sides of the aisle fighting for change in Albany. Otherwise,
let's correct this. There was an unauthorized political action committee that was sponsored by a fellow who actually, Mr. Ball took money from that fellow in his first campaign. And he made promises to that fellow that couldn't be kept. He's managed to anger an entire horizon of people with his divisive politics, his fear-mongering, and his intimidation.
If I can say one thing,
very quickly,
I wear the fact that I've upset people in Albany as a badge of honor. I don't want to play golf with Sheldon Silver. The people I'm fighting for are in my district. I didn't go to Albany to make friends. I went to Albany to make change. And every vote that I've made in these tough fiscal times is being proven correct, whether it be the budget or any other issue.
Mr. Degnan, let me ask you, if you want to answer that. Again, I want to reiterate for our folks. You are a registered Republican, but the Democrats cross-endorsed you to run in this race. You lost the Republican primary, but you are running for this race as a Democrat. If you get elected as a Democrat, it is a fair question. Which side of the aisle do you sit on?
I'm not one to measure the drapes before I put them in, but I will say to you, that I will proudly serve in the Assembly.
Which side of the aisle, John?
And if I'm asked and voted in as a Democratic candidate, I will caucus with the Democrats.
Very good.
All right, there's an answer.
That's news.
There's an answer, and I appreciate for our viewers that this was a contentious primary, but let's try to focus right now on the issues. To the point, Mr. Ball, you made earlier, we're talking about an $8 billion potential deficit for the state. Could be more with this tanking economy.
Yep.
But again, you are a Republican who's in a Democratic-controlled assembly.
Sure.
So if you do go back to Albany, you know, what can you do to shake the tree?
We're going to be back in November. We'll probably be back in December. And sure, I'm in the minority in the Assembly, but we happen to have a Democratic governor on our side. Hopefully, we'll still have the Senate. And everything that I've been saying, that my conference has been saying for 2 years now on balancing the budget, on eliminating the $200 million in earmarks, on getting Medicaid spending in line, and stopping these really, if you look at the way that the government is spending money right now in New York State, they're spending like drunken sailors. Actually, sailors spend their own money. So I look forward. We have the mandate of the people. Right now, if you watch what's happening from Tokyo to New York, we are on the verge of financial disaster. And the people of the state, the New York State recessions generally last twice the national average. 25% of our income comes from Wall Street. Silver and not Joe Brewer anymore, but Silver and Skelos need to get this budget in line. We have the mandate of the people behind us. And the last thing we need in that legislature, I have stood up and fought for 2 years and stood up to some very powerful people. The last thing we need in that legislature is another rubber stamp that has accepted over $500,000.
You know what? I take real exception with Mr. Ball calling me a rubber stamp. I've served my community for 11 years. I have always made the decisions for the people of the community. I expect to bring that same talent to bring people together to the New York State Assembly. I know people on both sides of the aisle in Albany. I've worked with our U.S. senators. I've worked with our New York State senators. I've worked with our congressmen. We need to come together. We need to put divisive politics behind us. Mr. Ball makes a show of his work. Demonstrate the work that has been accomplished under Mr. Ball's so-called leadership. I say we need better representation. We need someone who's going to get up there, put partisan politics aside, and get the job done. That starts with looking at the budget. You know, former Minority Leader John Faso put together a plan that represented a $13 billion savings in state health care. That was scrapped. You know what? It's time to resuscitate that. It's time to look at every single line in that budget and work with both sides of the aisle to say we need to cut it. And we need not only to cut it because we have a deficit that we already knew about, but because we're witnessing the collapse of Wall Street and the 20 or 25% that income represents to our budget.
As much as you're at odds with Mr.